Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. What I would like to share with you is our perspective on the transformation of the networks nowadays and how it will have the impact on optical fiber demand. Let me quickly just introduce you my company, Prysmian Group. We are a company producing all sorts of cable with 140 years of history. We are present in 40 countries, have more than 80 plants around the globe with 70 research and development centers and about 21,000 employees with sales last year with 7.6 billion. We have basically two pillars in our company. One pillar is the energy part, and the second pillar is our telecommunication part. So now I would like to speak about the transformation. Basically, we are really in a situation that we call the digital revolution is happening as we speak. In the middle of this chart, you actually can really see that connectivity is required 24 hours a day, and what we are nowadays doing in 1 minute. I don't want to get into the details, but as you can see, we want to be connected all the time, and this connectivity is going to increase. We have, or we expect that connected people will increase to close to 10 billion in the next 5 years. We will have machines talking to each other, so connected machinery, particularly with IoT services, will be a big trend, and for that we need the right connectivity. A big driver will be video streamings versus broadcasting. It will be not a killer application, but it will that we need better improved networks. We will have increase of new services, apps, which was already mentioned this morning. We will have new technologies like 4K, UHD, which require more bandwidth, and so on. And we will have an increased connectivity on devices. So basically, everything at home will be connected somehow to the network. And also we have a second big driver from our perspective, which is the digitalization of our life. Our habits are changing. Our personal and business habits are changing. Socially, we are communicating with our apps. Everything we put into the cloud, we call it the cloud of things. Everything is actually moved into the cloud, which eventually will end up in smart cities, smart homes, smart factories. Also, our next generation, Generation Z, is driving the demand. They require more fiber because they want to spend more time, multitasking time in the networks. And of course, that will all require hungriness of our data, and that will drive the traffic for the next 5 years. So the digitalization of our life is not a dream, it's happening as we speak. Now some more concrete drivers happening in Europe. As you know, we had the digital agenda for 2020, which was set in 2010. And here we had the target set that we have 100% coverage of broadband in 2013, that we had super fast broadband with a download target of 30 megabits, and 50% in 2020 with access to ultra fast broadband, 100 megabits download connection. So this connectivity we basically reached, but we changed it, I will skip that, to a new agenda. And that agenda is that we have 3 strategic connectivity objectives by 2025. And here we want to have, as a matter of fact, really networks in place which can only realized, from my perspective, by one technology, and that is eventually 1 gigabyte download and upload. So far, it's only required for schools, university, research centers, and transport hubs, but it will actually come to every household and every business in the next few years. Also, from a European citizen perspective, our targets is required that we will give at least 100 megabits connectivity up and downstream in the next few years, but it needs to be upgradable to gigabit. 5G will be a big driver. We talked already about it. 5G coverage is also given as a big target by the European Union. And here we should have an interim result that commercially available, at least each major city should have such a network in place by 2020. Very quickly, what is the status of FTTH so far from a global perspective? This is a chart done by the FTTH Council Europe, or together with the FTTH Global Alliances, which is the overall organization of the FTTH family. You see that the most subscribers we have in Asia Pacific, no big surprise, because China is driving FTTH for many, many years, but also Europe is catching up, which results in, let's say, more than 40 million in the end of last year. North America and South America are countries which are on a stable growth, and also MENA with close to 3 million is catching up quickly. And I will tell you in a moment why it is important. The forecast is maybe interesting to see as well. If we continue the deployment of FTTH like we do it nowadays, so with no acceleration, we will have by 2019 more than 70,000 connections around Europe. So we are quite optimistic we will reach that FTTH forecast. One of my favorite slides is, we call it the FTTH maturity, which shows you, gives you at least a 20% of penetration rate around the globe. As you can see on the left top, that countries like Asia Pacific, no surprise, reached this maturity already a decade ago, like Japan and Korea, but also China reached it just a couple of years ago, and US or North America will reach it in the next few years. Some leading countries in Europe are the Baltic countries and also some in the north, but the bigger economies will not reach this maturity in the next few years because they didn't start. We hear that already countries like Germany or the UK have a very low penetration. Germany with not even 2%, UK even didn't reach a threshold of 1% penetration rate. And why is it so important? We believe fiber is really essential for the next networks which will come for 5G, particularly for the backhauling of the small cells. So we believe that countries which have already very good fiber to the home, fiber to the build penetration will be in a better position to deploy 5G when we finalized the standardization in the next few years. What has it an impact on the optical cable market? Very quickly, globally, we still have a very dramatic growth of about 10–11%, and the main reason is really that the highest consumption is done in Asia Pacific, particularly in China, which consumes more than 50% of the optical fiber around the globe. And to the same time, we see a big demand in North America, but also in some countries in Europe, which in totally continues with its growth rate. So Europe we have countries like France, Spain, Germany and UK, which will actually come up in the next few years, and that will drive the demand on a very high level. So to conclude, we believe the high demand is driven by the network transformation, which will require quite a huge capex, but the capex is willing to be spent by the operators. We will have the European Digital Agenda 2020, and from our perspective, the fiber and cable manufacturers need to think how to deal with this high demand and provide solutions from a total TCO, total cost of ownership perspective. And that is important because, as the last point, we are in the middle of a digital revolution and we want to realize this evolution. So please, if you want to see how we want to deal with supporting this network transformation step by at our booth, and you will see what kind of solution we have available for realizing this transfer of the network. Thank you very much.
Ευχαριστώ.